The bar smelled like boiled engine grease, overcooked fungus, and lies. Cal Rivik leaned back on a splintered bench, sipping something the barkeep had called stellar ale, though he was 90% sure it had been siphoned from a coolant tank. The liquid fizzed blue and acidic across his tongue, which he took as a positive sign. If it wasn't trying to kill him, it probably wasn't authentic. He scratched the back of his neck, pretending not to notice the trio of armored mercs across the room who were pretending not to notice him. Their helmets were off, revealing sharp teeth, angular cybernetic implants, and the kind of facial expressions that screamed we get paid per corpse. Cal muttered under his breath, "Great, the subtle kind." The bartender, a four-armed Slarnian who went by the name Fug, polished a glass with two hands and reassembled a blaster rifle with the other two. "You draw attention like a magnet draws shrapnel, human," Fug grunted. "Yeah, but I tip well," Cal replied. "You paid me with expired Earth credits and a coupon for dental surgery." "That's what I meant." Outside, Varnock IV's twin suns dipped below the horizon, painting the cracked desert sky in shades of violent orange and migraine purple. Dust devils chased each other across the horizon. In the distance, one of the moons blinked out for half a second, probably another weapons test. Cal didn't care. He was still breathing. That counted for something. It had been 3 weeks since the shuttle explosion. Official reports called it a tragic accident. Unofficially, it had been a message. Stop digging into subspace lattice folding, or the universe digs into you. Cal hadn't exactly been subtle with his theories. He proposed that the lattice could act not just as a conduit but as a predictive matrix, allowing for limited, directed forecasting of quantum collapse. In simpler terms, time peaking. Someone didn't like that, someone who now wanted him dead. "Maybe I should just let them take me," Cal muttered. Fug snorted. "If you're looking for suicide, I've got a drink called the Nova Widow, only one side effect." "What's that?" "Death." Cal glanced at the mercs again. They were standing now, coming closer. One of them cracked his knuckles, another spun a blade that shimmered with phase energy. The third just smiled. That was the worst one. "Well," Cal said, rising from his seat. "Looks like happy hour's over." He didn't have a weapon unless you counted his tool belt, which he absolutely did. He pulled a hydro spanner from his hip, held it like a club, and said, "Back off, gentlemen. I'm certified in mechanical beatdowns." The leader stepped forward. His voice was gravel dipped in oil. "Cal Rivik, you are ordered to surrender for unlawful manipulation of classified quantum data, grand technological misappropriation, and criminal-level smugness." Cal shrugged. "I plead mostly guilty." The blade spun in the second merc's hand. "This can be easy or you can suffer." "I've read that book," Cal said. "Terrible ending." The first punch came fast. Cal ducked it barely and jammed his spanner into the attacker's knee joint. Sparks flew. The merc stumbled, swearing in a language Cal didn't recognize but instinctively felt offended by. The others surged in. Cal swung wildly, knocked over a table, slipped on a puddle of something biologically ambiguous, and landed hard. His head rang. He looked up just in time to see a boot descending toward his face. And then the floor exploded. Not metaphorically. Literally. A 2-meter circle of stone erupted into shards as a blur of violet and silver surged upward through the crater. The shockwave flattened the remaining tables and flung the mercs like rag dolls. Cal rolled onto his side, ears ringing, vision swimming. He blinked. Standing in the center of the wreckage, framed by smoke and fury, was a woman. Not just a woman, his woman. Tall, armored in organic silver plating that pulsed with violent energy, and bearing a plasma glaive longer than Cal was tall. Her long, curved ears twitched once, twice, and her eyes, burning with luminous violet light, locked onto the nearest merc. "Touch my bondmate again," she growled, voice like thunder grinding through marble, "and I will crush your descendants from the timeline." Cal blinked. "Hey, sweetie." Yashara didn't answer. She moved. To say she fought was like saying supernovas got a bit warm. The plasma glaive cleaved through the air, its energy blade slicing through metal, bone, and ego alike. The first merc tried to raise his weapon. Bad idea. It clattered to the floor, along with his arm. The second screamed and ran. Yashara caught him mid-turn and introduced his face to a wall at approximately escape velocity minus hope. The third one, the smiley one, tried to get cute with a teleport module. Yashara hurled her glaive like a spear. It impaled him mid-blink. He reappeared outside the bar, 5 meters in the air, sans internal organs. Silence fell. Smoke curled in lazy tendrils. The bartender ducked behind the counter and muttered, "I just cleaned in here." Yashara turned, her armor hissing softly as it retracted around her shoulders. She stepped over the rubble, expression unreadable. Cal, still flat on his back, grinned up at her. "Took you long enough." She knelt beside him. "You said you'd stay out of trouble." "I lied. You said you wouldn't attract planetary manhunts again." "Didn't think this planet had manhunts." Her eyes narrowed. "You said you'd decall." Cal winced. "I was going to, but I lost my communicator in a card game with a sentient fungus. Long story." She touched his cheek, her fingers brushing the bruise forming under his eye. "I should leave you to die. You say that every time." She exhaled, a sound halfway between exasperation and affection, and helped him up. He wobbled. She caught him. Around them the bar creaked and groaned, half destroyed. Fug peeked up from behind the counter. "You two gonna pay for this." Yashara reached into a compartment on her hip, pulled out a coin that glowed with enough raw plasma energy to buy a moon, and tossed it across the room. It melted part of the counter. Fug didn't complain. Outside, the night wind howled. Stars glinted overhead, indifferent and eternal. Cal leaned against his wife as they stepped out into the dust. "You came for me," he said. "I always do." "Romantic," he said, then paused. "You broke the espresso machine." She blinked. "What's an espresso?" Cal sighed. "We've got work to do." The transport ship rattled like a caffeine-addled squirrel in a washing machine. Cal Rivik gripped the side rail and tried not to think about the fact that the stabilizers had been growling for the last 8 minutes. It was the kind of sound ships only made when they were either about to land or explode, and judging by the fried dashboard and flickering grav field, either was equally possible. "Remind me again," he said, as the ship banked hard left, "why you picked this ride." Yashara didn't flinch as sparks burst from the ceiling. It was the only one not actively being shot at. "Well, that's comforting. Really makes me feel secure." She tilted her head, long ears twitching. "You would prefer I had selected the one with the bounty hunter who smelled like boiled moss. I'm just saying, maybe next time we don't hitch a ride on a ship named the Regretful Decision." The cockpit lights surged, then died. The inertial compensators lagged half a second behind reality, which meant Cal's stomach briefly occupied another dimension. When the lights returned, they were red. That never meant good things. From the pilot's chair, a gnarled Voldari with cybernetic eyes barked, "Brace. Entry to Herex 7 airspace is rough. Local thermals are angry today." Cal groaned. "Why does every planet we land on either hate us, want to kill us, or explode?" Yashara turned, unbothered. "Because you keep trying to explain your science theories to planetary security." "One time," Cal muttered. "One time I mentioned subspace recursion to a customs bot, and suddenly I'm a terrorist." The ship buckled again, then steadied. Outside, the sky shifted from angry violet to neon amber. The floating city of Haldrith shimmered in the distance, suspended on antigrav pylons and clustered with towers shaped like melted obelisks. Steam hissed from vents. Flyers zipped through clouds like startled birds. The entire city looked like a hacker's fever dream after too much synth coffee and unresolved emotional trauma. As they disembarked onto a landing platform that groaned under its own indecision, Cal took a deep breath of thick, oily air. He coughed immediately. Ah, the smell of industry and failure. Yashara scanned the area with her warband visor. 3 heat signatures, watching, probably not immediate threats. Cal narrowed his eyes. "You mean they're delayed threats?" "Likely." Great, my favorite kind. They walked through a tangle of stalls, alleys, and sales drones, advertising everything from quantum socks to memory wipes. A toothy vendor offered Cal a fresh cloned tongue, to which he politely declined and then ran. Their contact was a smuggler named Glevin Trusk, who operated out of an establishment called the Prion's Tooth, which turned out to be equal parts bar, gambling den, and questionable cybernetic clinic. The walls buzzed with ambient static. The bartender was mostly mechanical, and the furniture was held together with hope and electrical tape. Cal sat on a stool that groaned beneath him. Are we sure this is the guy? Yashara nodded. He owes my people a blood debt. Cal blinked, like an actual debt or a poetic one. He borrowed a violin death harp and used it in a nightclub. That sounds incredible. It was not. Trusk arrived exactly 10 minutes late, wrapped in a cloak of active camouflage that flickered uselessly. He was humanoid, maybe once fully organic but now more implant than man. One eye glowed green. The other was busy trying to blink independently. Yashara, he rasped, with a voice like static trying to do impressions. And the mate. Cal raised a hand. That's me, hello, officially bonded, hearty applause. Trusk ignored him. I hear you're stirring the past. We need data, Yashara said. The Sundagger project, we know it's real. We know someone twisted Cal's research. Trusk leaned forward. That kind of knowledge gets you erased from history. In the literal sense, word is they're building a spear. We know, Cal said. Chronosphere, weaponized timeline collapse. I'd love to unknow it actually. Trusk slid a data shard across the table. That's what I have. Maps, signatures, partial blueprints. The spear's almost finished, powered by a violin neural lattice. Yashara's jaw clenched. Cal caught it. They're using your biology, he said. They're not the first to try, she muttered. But they will be the last. Cal pocketed the shard. We need access. Entry point, weak link, bribable janitor, anything. Trusk hesitated, then smirked. Funny you should ask. There's one person who might help, but you're not gonna like it. Cal rubbed his eyes. Why does everyone say that right before saying something awful? She's Earth Coalition intelligence. High level, real paranoid, real dangerous, and real fond of you. Cal froze. Oh no, he whispered. Yashara narrowed her eyes. Who? Trusk grinned. Meldane. There was a silence thick enough to spoon. Oh no, Cal repeated. Yashara looked at him slowly. Who is Meldane? Cal scratched his head. Short story, she's my ex. Yashara blinked once. She also may have filed at least 3 of the bounty warrants on me. Twice. And I might have promised her I'd never leave without saying goodbye, and then did exactly that. Thrice, Yashara was very still. You failed to mention this previously. Because I didn't think the galaxy was small enough to run into all my exes. Trusk chuckled. She's on Outpost Hellion, Sector 12, heavily guarded. But if anyone knows Sundagger's key vulnerabilities, it's her. Cal sighed. Of course. The fate of time itself depends on a very awkward conversation. Yashara rose. Then we prepare, we leave by dawn. Cal winced. Do we have to? Yashara looked at him. You'd rather face timeline collapse than talk to your ex. Is that not a normal reaction? She was silent. Okay, fine, I'll talk to her, but I'm bringing snacks, and maybe body armor. As they exited the Prion's Tooth, the night sky over Harex 7 swirled with lightning. Somewhere, deep beneath the floating city, a ripple of unstable time energy pulsed and vanished. The spear was waking. Cal looked up and muttered, why is it never just space pirates? Outpost Hellion looked like someone had glued a prison complex to the side of an asteroid, then given it a budget and a paranoia problem. Cal Rivik stared through the viewport of the rental shuttle, chewing a stick of synthmint gum with the kind of determination usually reserved for astronauts preparing for re-entry. You sure she'll even talk to me? He asked, tugging at the collar of his jacket. She did say, and I quote, if I ever see your lying face again, I will introduce it to a vacuum. Yashara checked the scanner for turret positions. You've had worse conversations. Yeah, with tax auditors. And that one time I tried to explain irony to a sentient algorithm. Still alive. Barely. The shuttle docked with a hiss. The boarding corridor extended like a mechanical tongue. Security drones drifted along the interior like bored sharks. One scanned Cal and beeped in mild alarm. Subject flagged for Class 4 infractions. Multiple warrants pending. Also, the drone paused. Romantic entanglement history with internal personnel. Yashara raised an eyebrow. Let's all remember, Cal said, holding up his hands, people change, especially when they're trying to avoid being vaporized. The automated doors opened with an unenthusiastic whir. The reception room was minimalist, steel-lined, with a security desk staffed by a bored-looking humanoid with chrome pupils. A wall-mounted AI assistant chirped, "Welcome to Outpost Hellion. Please state your purpose or remain still and awkward." Cal sighed. "I'm here to see Agent Meldane. Tell her it's Cal Rivik." "No, really." There was a pause. A very long pause. Then the doors behind the desk slid open, revealing Mel. She hadn't changed much. Sharp cheekbones, sharper eyes, hair tied back like it was offended by gravity. Wearing a sleek black uniform that probably had a built-in neural defense grid, her smile could have sliced titanium. "Well, well," she said. "Look what entropy dragged in." Cal winced. "Hi, Mel." "You're still alive." Surprise. I thought the universe would have corrected that by now. Yashara stepped forward. "We're not here for nostalgia." Mel's eyes flicked to her. "Ah, the wife." "Yes," Yashara said flatly. "Bonded permanently. In battle and blood." Mel turned back to Cal. "You always had a type." "Can we not do this here?" Cal said. "There are literally drones watching. One of them winked at me, I swear." Mel crossed her arms. "You're here for Sundagger." Cal blinked. "Okay, that's creepy. I didn't even say it yet." "Information flows," she said. "And you're as predictable as ever, still chasing things you don't understand." "I do understand," Cal said. "That's the problem. The chronosphere isn't just theoretical anymore. It's operational. We saw the prototypes." Mel frowned. "Then you know the stakes." "We also know they're using virulent genetic architecture to target entire temporal threads," Yashara said. "Including mine." Mel's expression shifted just slightly. "They told us it was inert tech, recovered from an extinct line." "Do I look extinct?" Yashara asked. Cal coughed. "Very much not extinct." Mel exhaled slowly. "The project's been accelerated. Coalition intelligence authorized test runs. They've already mapped at least 2 alternate timelines." "What happens if they fire it into one?" Cal asked. "They said it'd be a clean cut. No effect on our reality." "You believe that?" Mel hesitated. "I believe the math is optimistic." Yashara stepped forward. "You want to stop it, or you wouldn't be talking to us." Mel looked at her, then at Cal. "You're going to need access. Level 7. That means breaking into the internal network and stealing a keycard from one of the directors." "Perfect," Cal said. "Back to espionage, my third least favorite activity." "What are the first 2? Mel asked. "Dental surgery and family reunions." Mel tapped on her datapad and handed him a chip. "This will spoof your ID for 12 minutes. After that, the system will recognize your, let's call it, unique aura of chaos." Yashara folded her arms. "You trust him to sneak into a high-security zone." "I trust him to make a mess big enough that it distracts everyone else," Mel said. "That's always been his talent." "Flattering," Cal said. "Really warms the soul." They moved quickly. Mel led them through maintenance corridors and dead zones in the surveillance network. Cal slipped through a vent duct, muttering the whole time about the lack of dignity in crawling next to recycled air systems. They reached the access chamber. A glowing hex door guarded the director's wing. 2 guards stood at attention, bored but trigger-happy. Cal turned to Yashara. "Distraction plan." She drew her plasma glaive and smiled. "Subtle." She charged. The fight was fast and loud. Cal slipped past during the chaos, hands shaking as he slotted the chip into the control panel. The door shimmered and dissolved. He slipped inside. Inside the director's office, sleek consoles pulsed with light. He spotted the access card in a tray, along with a bowl of synthetic fruit labeled "Do Not Touch, Quantum Calibrated." Naturally, he touched it. It tasted like regret and citrus. Grabbing the card, he turned to leave, only to see himself standing in the doorway, not metaphorically, literally himself. The other Cal looked older, grayer, and extremely stressed. "Don't trust the," he began, and vanished. Cal stood frozen. Okay, that's not ominous at all. He bolted back to the others. The guards were unconscious. Yashara stood over them, breathing steadily. "You have it." Cal nodded, and I saw myself. Mel frowned. "What?" "My future self showed up. Said not to trust the something, then poof, gone." Yashara grabbed his shoulder. "Time is destabilizing." "Yeah," Cal said, pocketing the card. "Which means we're right on schedule." Mel looked at both of them. "You need to go now. Sundagger's base is in Sector Null, off-grid. No one comes back from there." Cal shrugged. "Well, we're not no one." Yashara nodded. "We are many." Mel stared. "That's oddly poetic." Cal smiled. "Thanks, I read a lot of sci-fi." Sector Null did not exist on any official star chart, which Cal decided was either a sign of clever military obfuscation or someone's really bad filing system. The coordinates led them to the edge of a blue giant star, where a curtain of artificial nebulae disguised a cloaked orbital structure the size of a small continent. Cal stared out the viewport of their stealth pod and whispered, "That's not a facility. That's a violation of at least 12 galactic building codes." Yashara leaned forward, analyzing the layered shields. Multi-phase hull shielding. Quantum anchor beacons. That place is wrapped tighter than your sarcasm circuits. "Thank you, I work hard on those." The pod coasted silently toward a docking bay that didn't exist until it flickered into visibility. A robotic voice whispered, "Welcome to Sundagger Research Complex. If you can hear this message, you are unauthorized." Cal looked around. Anyone else get the feeling this place doesn't like guests? Yashara checked her gauntlet. "My armor doesn't like the gravitational field. It's shifting every 7 seconds. "Cool, a moody gravity well. Love that." They slipped through the airlock. Inside, the corridors pulsed with sterile blue light. The architecture was smooth, seamless, almost grown rather than built. The floor buzzed underfoot, whispering telemetry in low frequencies. Cal adjusted his collar. "Feels like I'm walking through someone's nervous system." Yashara scanned ahead. Auto defense turrets ahead. 6, 2 on ceiling, 4 recessed in wall. Suggestions. I disable them. You run fast and scream as needed. They executed the plan flawlessly. Cal's scream earned a 7 out of 10 on the local decibel scale. They passed through labs filled with cryo-coffins, each housing a version of Sundagger's evolving AI. Some looked peaceful. Others had claw marks on the inside. Cal didn't comment. For once, in the command hub they found a circular console surrounded by projection pillars. A hologram flickered to life, female, stately, and disturbingly familiar. Yashara narrowed her eyes. "That's me." Cal blinked. "Oh no, they didn't." The hologram spoke, initiating chronosphere protocol, syncing with Vierlin neural pattern. Yashara stepped forward. "They scanned my mind." Cal pulled up a data display. "Not just scanned, cloned, you're the targeting interface. The weapon thinks like you." Yashara frowned. "Then we must make it forget." Alarms blared. Cal sighed. "There it is." Security bots emerged from every direction, sleek, weaponized, and lacking in conversation skills. Cal dove behind a console as Yashara spun into motion, her plasma glaive humming through metal and wires like a surgeon with rage issues. He opened a subpanel. "Keep them busy. I'll rewrite the interface logic." She sliced a bot mid-leap. "You have 3 minutes. No pressure." He typed furiously, rerouting the AI substructure through redundant loops. The interface protested. "Access denied. Override unauthorized. Intrusion detected. He grinned. Story of my life. A bot tackled him. He jabbed it with a fusion coil. It exploded with the dramatic flair of a robot that had just realized it had made poor life choices. Yashara was bleeding. Her armor hissed and resealed. Cal shouted, "Almost there." The AI flickered. Protocol breach, chronosphere destabilizing. Yashara slammed her blade into the projection pillar, then let it break. The entire complex shuddered. Outside the viewport, space warped. A ripple spread from the core of the facility, visible distortion carving across the stars. Cal's display showed a flashing alert. Temporal anchor disengaged. Core cascade imminent. He grabbed Yashara's arm. "We have 60 seconds before this place forgets it was ever born." She nodded, "Then we leave with meaning." They sprinted down the corridor, alarms howling. The complex bent reality behind them, walls rippling, lights blinking in Morse code from the future. They reached the dock just as the pod's emergency system flared online. Cal slammed the launch. "If we survive this, I'm buying you a vacation." Yashara smirked. "On a planet that doesn't explode." "That's the dream." The pod ejected. Behind them, Sundagger ruptured, not with fire but with silence. A reverse birth. One moment it existed, the next gone. But Cal remembered, and in his hand, clutched too tightly, was a small black shard, something that hadn't been there before. Something that pulsed in his own rhythm. The pod jolted into real space with a crackle of displaced time energy, and a smell that Cal swore was burnt toast and mild regret. The emergency dampeners fired 2 seconds late, and he found himself upside down with Yashara's boot in his face and the console beeping like it owed him money. "Still alive," he muttered. "That's either a miracle or a clerical error." Yashara pulled herself upright. "We survived temporal detachment. That pod was not designed for multidimensional escape. It also wasn't designed for in-flight meals, which is frankly a bigger issue." She checked her gauntlet. Temporal anomaly stabilizing. Chronosphere is gone. Cal reached into his coat and pulled out the shard. It was warm now and still pulsing faintly, like it knew things and wasn't sure if it wanted to share. "Found this during the implosion. Feels like a part of the Sundagger AI, maybe the control core." He paused. "Or the world's worst USB drive." Yashara studied it. "Residual consciousness, it may remember." "It better not remember my browser history." A voice buzzed from the console. Mel's face appeared, glitchy and grainy. "Congratulations," she said, deadpan. "You broke the galaxy's most classified project, survived a timeline collapse, and probably invalidated 12 spacetime treaties. How do you feel?" "Mostly hungry," Cal replied, "and a little proud." Yashara crossed her arms. "Is the Coalition still hunting us?" "For now, no. You took out something that scared even them." Sundagger's official records were conveniently lost in a data wipe. Funny how that happens when explosions are involved. "And the Merc teams?" "Scattered. Whoever funded them lost their best toy. They're disorganized and scared." Cal blinked. "Wait. So we won?" Mel raised an eyebrow. "Don't get used to it." The feed cut. Silence returned. Cal leaned back, exhaled, and stared at the shard again. "So what do we do with this thing? It's not exactly decorative. Might eat a desk if left unattended." Yashara took it from his hand and crushed it in hers. It crumbled into dust and light. "Oh," Cal said, "that works." They landed on a neutral trade moon, orbiting the star cluster of Nivar. No one there cared about fugitives or time weapons, just trade permits and not getting stepped on by drunken cyborgs. Over the next few days, Cal repaired his left boot, rebuilt his quantum wrench, and found a replacement for his long-lost espresso machine. Yashara bought a small training dome and began mentoring local fighters for credits and honor challenges. Word spread quickly. Don't cross the alien warrior with long ears and a glare that could reset your DNA. One night, sitting on the balcony of their rented habitation pod, Cal sipped a steaming mug and looked up at the stars. "You know," he said, "this all started because I couldn't keep my mouth shut about subspace structures." You still can't, Yashara replied without looking up from her maintenance tablet. And yet I've grown, slightly. You did not explode. I also married the most dangerous woman in the galaxy. You got lucky. I prefer cosmically aligned, he said, raising his mug, to improbable survival. She tapped her tablet, to your ability to make enemies and call it networking. They clinked mugs. Cal leaned against her shoulder. Do you ever regret it? Choosing me, I mean. You could have had a violin bond prince or a warlord, someone who doesn't get stuck in vents. Yashara turned her head slowly. They do not make me laugh. He smiled. You do laugh on the inside. I am hilarious internally. They sat in silence for a while, watching the stars do their usual cosmic dance. Somewhere out there, timelines still twisted, conspiracies still brewed, and bureaucrats still hated them. But here, for now, things were quiet. Cal adjusted his coat. You know, we could write a book about this. No one would believe it. That's the beauty of it. She looked at him. What would you call it? He thought for a moment, grinned, and said, They tried to kill me until my alien warrior wife arrived. She blinked. That's a terrible title. And yet accurate. She didn't argue. Instead, she leaned into him just slightly and said, Next time we save the galaxy, I pick the mission. Cal nodded. Deal, as long as I get snacks. Far above them, a satellite pinged. In the debris field where Sundagger once hovered, a silent ripple flickered and vanished. The past, once weaponized, was finally quiet, and for once the future looked wide open.